Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over some updates on the new car market because we've got some new data in. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then some of the information provided in today's video comes from Cox Automotive. Let's get into it. So the big headline is the fact that new vehicle sales are in fact slowing down, and the data supports this. So Cox Automotive states that the yearly sales pace based off of what we can see so far with the sales month of November is 15.3 million units. Now that is up from what we saw in November last year, which was 14.3 million units, but it's down compared to last month, which had a yearly sales pace of 15.5 million units. So month over month, things are slowing down. And just to put that number into like a bigger perspective, outside of this whole crazy pandemic situation, the new car industry typically expected to see a yearly sales pace in the 17 plus million unit range. And so the fact that things are already contracting when we're not even at that range is pretty troubling for the overall health of the new car market. And that's not even to talk about the lack of profitability with a lot of new cars, and we'll kind of dive into that a little bit later in this video. Now, a big part of the reason as to why volume is stronger this year compared to last year is because of the increase in inventory. Like, there are a lot of people, especially fleet companies, that have been sitting on the sidelines because there's just nothing to buy. Now there's a lot of cars to buy. New car inventory is at 2.4 million units available. That is a ton of inventory for pretty much everyone to choose from. And if you look at the individual segments in terms of the sales, it actually makes sense based on what we've seen with inventory increases within different segments. So mid-size cars this year are actually forecasted to see fewer sales, interestingly enough. And if you look at inventory with mid-size cars, there's not as much. Now, compact cars, there's more inventory right now than there was last year, and the sales forecast is an increase, right? From 63,000 units last year to 80,000 units this year, which, yeah, very interesting on that. And then SUVs and compact crossovers. Now, this one's a little bit strange, but not too strange. So again, there's more inventory available with those, so the sales forecast has increased dramatically, but this is also the market that's starting to see the biggest amount of softening, like there's a lot of pullback, so interesting with that. Pickup trucks, slight increase year over year. Again, there's tons of pickup truck inventory, way more available. And then mid-size SUVs, crossovers, those have seen a decline, and again, if you look at the inventory with those vehicles, it seems like a lot of vehicles in that segment, there's not necessarily less inventory, but there's not really more inventory compared to last year. So again, that is the general trend, is that if a vehicle has more inventory, it's most likely going to see more of the vehicles sell within that segment. So I think that's a pretty interesting thing to consider. Now, let's dive into the profitability of side of things, and then let's dive into what this means for the overall car market. So first off, when it comes to profitability, I think this is something that is very important to talk about. So prior to the pandemic, when the new car industry was seeing 17, almost 18 million new vehicles sold every single year, profitability on a per car basis was not all that strong. Incentives from manufacturers were at all-time highs. Incentive spend back then was in the like $4,000 to $5,000 per unit range across the industry. Now, right now, we're still just over $2,000 with manufacturer incentives on average. But if you look at dealership incentives, they're actually just as high from a percentage standpoint, if not higher in some cases, compared to what we saw prior to the pandemic. And so what this shows is that, at the ground level, right, the level that has to react most quickly to what's actually happening in the market, dealership level, things are, from a discount perspective, as big as what we saw during the, before the pandemic. And this is really, really scary for the car industry because we're nowhere near that 17, 18 million unit range. We're still in the 15 million unit range. And so this just means that the new car market is significantly smaller. There's also, a little bit less inventory compared to what we had prior to the pandemic. But the biggest thing is the day supply number was significantly higher back then. The day supply number back then was around 90 days for the car industry, whereas now it's in the 60-day range. So what this shows overall is that for dealerships to sell cars in today's market that is smaller, they have to discount those cars more. Even though the market supply of cars is lower, for dealerships to put these car deals together, they have to do big discounts. And so now I want to dive into what this means for the car market moving forward. If we continue to see the car market contract, then automakers are going to have to make some tough decisions. And I think that these tough decisions could greatly benefit not only the car market, but the consumer. So they're either going to have to decide to cut profitability and, AKA cut prices on their cars to increase volume, or they're going to have to decide to just continue to focus on building the more high profit cars and hope that people keep coming in and buying them. And, I think that's something that can work in the short term, but I don't think that's going to be great in the long term, because eventually the markets with these more profitable cars will get saturated. I mean, this is what we've already been seeing happen for the last couple of years, where manufacturers, basically just focus on, producing those more profitable cars. And the next thing you know, everyone that wants that car has one, and then they stop selling, and then the manufacturer goes, oh, well, we better go and do something else. And so, yeah, with certain cars, we're still in a situation where the supply is low enough compared to the demand that they can keep playing that game. But I think in the long term, manufacturers need to consider releasing some heavy price cuts, again, if they want to increase in volume. And I think it's only a matter of time that, for that to happen, because one manufacturer is going to do it. It just takes one manufacturer in a segment to just flood the market. I mean, look at what Tesla has done, right? Tesla has slashed their prices a massive amount, and they've basically sold a bunch of cars because of it. And so now all their competitors are having to do the same thing. So it just takes the same thing happening in other segments within the car industry for other automakers to go and follow suit. That's going to sum things up for today's video. I want you guys to let me know what you think is going to happen moving forward with the new car market. Do you think that manufacturers are actually going to release some big discounts in the future, or do you think that they're going to try to hold firm despite the fact that there is a decline in volume? And so, yeah, I'll see you.